Hi, everybody. This is 1,234, 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Um, in our count, the count is not accurate. I say that every day because this is a botched case. And dirty agent Marlon Soto is still there on Fort Bliss and the CID. Dirty agent Marlon Soto. um, keeping up the narrative. Yep, that's what I think he's doing, keeping up the narrative. But there's breaking news every day, and so much is at stake. Uh, of course, our intent is to get Richard's remains, right? To um, break this so that we can have our son's remains. I mean, can you believe it? This is what we have to go through in order to get a volunteer soldier's remains home. And absolutely, there's not a doubt in my mind that uh, Marlon Soto Hernandez is a dirty agent, that he botched this case because, well, let's just let the prosecutors do the rest. Let the prosecutors do the rest. And speaking of prosecutors, let me make sure I'm on Facebook because what a day again. What an amazing time. Um, we are plowing forward. You know, this is looks like a big green machine, an organized group. But this group, they're criminals. They're hurting people. How can anyone expect us when our son has been murdered and they do not give us um, justice and do not give us our son's remains and do not hold these criminals that hurt people. They hurt people. They hurt children. Okay, they hurt children. They hurt the community. Not only that, they economically hurt the community. I mean, they are just chaotic. And Leilani Hart is the poster child for that. She is the poster child for hurt and chaos that they are bringing to hurt people, to hurt families, to hurt society, and bring us like false narratives and just evil stuff. Uh, just oh my gosh, I can't even tell you all the evil and sex cult stuff. And I'm gonna be talking about that too, because these and so how can we not stand up against them? You know, uh, I don't know. Um, I guess because of knowing what they did to Richard, knowing what they have done to El Paso, going over to Juarez so many times. I see me. Going over to, thank you everyone. Thank you, Mitzi, for coming on. Going over to Juarez and seeing, they're lining up to go to get their methadone treatments because they're, addicted to illegal drugs. Um, the women are, during that COVID, it was so terrible. The drug use went way up, and of course, prostitution went way up. Leilani Hart, she was, uh, yeah, wow, um, went way up. And, we have millions and billions and trillions of dollars, really, y'all, invested in our agencies and organizations to help people, to get justice, to hold people accountable, to stop crime, to identify crime and identify criminals, to document. You know how much money we spend on just documenting crime and criminals. So here we are spending millions and billions and trillions on identifying crimes, identifying criminals, documenting crimes and criminals, documenting it all so that we can prosecute it, so that we can hold them accountable, so that we can have a thriving society. We pay for all of that, millions and billions and trillions, and we go to war because we think, oh, they're threatening our society, this other country or whatever, and we spend millions and billions and trillions, and then we find out we've been taken. We've been played a fool. That the millions and billions and trillions haven't bought us prosperity and freedom and peace, but that it has enslaved so many in illegal drug trafficking and being addicted to drugs, being targeted for drug use. The barracks on Fort Bliss are absolutely a target area for narcotics trafficking. It is a marketplace for illegal drugs, a marketplace. You can get anything you want. And these are our volunteer sons and daughters. And this is what our millions and billions and trillions and law enforcement have done to us. They have uh, let there be breaches in the security so that people can come in with special passes and just be mules really for the really evil people and target our security, our soldiers, our hopes for for freedom, right? To defend the Constitution, the land, and the people. They target our most valuable assets with narcotics. Not only that, they have the Class 6. And, my faith, because I just have to give a disclaimer here, my faith allows for dancing, allows for alcoholic adult beverages. Um, our I've never, Richard, even liked to smoke cigars. This is not, me speaking like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, okay, I'm not going to do any of that if that's going to be a problem in my life. I have no problems with that. But in our household, in our faith, um, it's not like taboo. It's not taboo. There are some things that are taboo, but it's not having a glass of wine, okay? So I just want to make that a disclaimer here because um, for the military, when you're in uniform, when you're in training, when you are a leader, and I don't know if uh, if you know this already, but one of the things that I was taught was that the priesthood in the Bible were not allowed to drink alcoholic beverages, you know, because they had to be always ready for the battle, always ready. They had no rest. And that's one of the reasons why in our church, in our faith, when we go up to communion, we have wine. We have wine because in Jesus, in Christ and his redemption, we have rest. We have rest, which was not there before. And but the fact is, and so that symbolizes where we get our rest, that we can relax. that we can celebrate, that we can have a glass of wine and take our shield down, right? And enjoy each other's company in peace without feeling threatened. But see, when you're in the military, you have to be alert. You can't let your guard down. You have to have a guard there. You have to have security um, uh, around and on that installation because there's weapons there. And if you have a security breach and those weapons get stolen, if those weapons get smuggled, if the military gets harmed in any way, our most valuable assets, our soldiers, our service members get harmed in any way, that's a national security threat. And so for the leadership to be so careless, it makes you wonder who they're working for. That they would have the Class 6 right there beside the barracks and, uh, you know, uh, just uh, have their soldiers drunk. Do you know how many times I was told that in the barracks they were just totally drunk every day? They were drunk every day, all the time. Um, and don't believe me, you can believe the one soldier that defected to Russia. He was at Fort Bliss and he said for 2 years he stayed drunk. Okay. That's a failure of leadership. That's a national security threat. And he was not the only person because I've been told that people stay high. They stay high, they stay drunk. Um, there is sexual harassment, there's sexual abuse, there's children living in the barracks being prostituted out. There are children living in the barracks being prostituted out. That's a fact. That's a fact. So we have absolutely evidence of child trafficking. We have evidence of prostitution. We have evidence of security breaches, failure of leadership. I think it was 11 soldiers. I brought it up on the Telegram. I was wanting to prepare for, uh, yeah, all of, with Denisha's information and the ABC coverage of Denisha Montgomery's case, um, the abuse. She's an MP. She was an MP. And this murder suicide. And then with Asia Graham's case, with the rapes right there in the barracks. Rapes in the barracks. They can't even secure the barracks where our most valuable assets live. You have children living in the barracks being prostituted out. You have, and then I put up the weapons, the unregistered weapons. So this is uh, a weapons problem. We have absolute um, evidence that weapons have been um, smuggled, and we believe it's part of Richard's case. We believe it's part of Richard's case, which is very concerning because Richard's case is intertwined with Patrick Crusius's case, the Walmart mass shooting on August 3rd, 2019. And by the way, August 3rd is Dallas Hart's birthday, Richard's platoon leader. And we have absolute witness testimony that Dallas Hart was involved in child pornography. Okay, so we have child sex trafficking, we have dereliction of duty, we have narcotics trafficking, we have um, murder, suicide, we have the Walmart mass shooting. And we received confirmation and from very, very close to Patrick Crucius, that Patrick Crucius is indeed on the autistic spectrum. This is huge news, and I need to make a post. I need to make some kind of image. Maybe someone can make one for me about Patrick Crucius, the truth, transparency, because getting this confirmation and knowing that there are weapons problems on Fort Bliss, because there are security problems on Fort Bliss, and we have audios that we have audios admitting so that there is some real problems, security problems on Fort Bliss. Okay. Um, and we for 3 years we've been trying to make sure that what we have is what it really is. Because, there is this tendency, or in our life, it's hard to believe that on our military installation, we have weapons trafficking, human child sex trafficking. We have, let me bring up this picture. If you don't believe me, these are very sick people. This is what kind of came out today. Let's see if I can get this open. See if I can get this open. Oh, maybe I can't. Oh, display here. Yeah. So here's this forward from New Mexico. New Mexico Democrat AG Torres Torres has filed a lawsuit against Meta and the CEO Mark Zuckerberg, including entities like Instagram and Facebook that expose child sex exploitation on their platforms. So here is this, like this proof of Pizzagate. And then do not forget, we had this a colonel involved in this sex cult, right? It was so horrible. I can only show it for a few seconds. So we have gathered evidence upon evidence upon evidence that Fort Bliss, and we're only focusing on Fort Bliss, even though it is like the Siamese sister city of or installation of Fort Hood, which is Fort Covassos now. And that's really telling because Denisha Montgomery was an MP in Wiesbaden, the same place that failed and derelict and evil and criminal Sean Bernabe, a 3-star general, it came from. Okay, he came from Wiesbaden, Germany, to El Paso. Okay, we got to El Paso at the same time as he did in 2020. He was sent there. They removed the commander. He was sent there, and he got there when we got there. So He was coming from Wiesbaden. Of course, he totally failed and was derelict on Fort Bliss. In our eyes, right? In our eyes, those that love our country, those that love our most valuable assets, as the military calls them, which are our volunteer sons and daughters, um, we absolutely know that he failed and was derelict. But if you're like working for some foreign and domestic enemy, then he was very successful at weakening our military um, in every which way. When it comes to narcotics, when it comes to prostitution, when it comes to the sex cults, when it comes to uh, alcohol abuse, when it comes to weapons trafficking or unregistered weapons, when it comes to the murder suicide, he absolutely uh, was successful at damaging our military as much as he possibly could, because he chose it. He allowed it all to happen. And I believe that on December 19th, he found our son's remains, partial remains, on Fort Bliss. And I believe that partial remains were found at kilometer 29. Um, I absolutely believe that, because Nadal Bayim said that they found Richard and they were looking for him in 5 different places because he had been dismembered. He had been dismembered. Okay, but Nadal Bayim said that he was that the FBI were looking for Richard in 5 different places. This is after they had found him. And the cashier, the very brave cashier, says, they lost me there. I didn't understand that. Yeah, because he was dismembered. And yeah, so this is all under million, billion, $1 trillion leadership at Fort Bliss. And this is what is going on. They don't have good intentions, y'all. They really don't. And they're hurting our service members, and they're hurting our country, and they're hurting the El Pasoans, and into Mexico. Because whatever happens in El Paso and Fort Bliss has a direct consequence or implication, or they're connected to Juarez, Mexico. Absolutely. So if they're human trafficking children, 85,000 unaccounted for children from Fort Bliss. 85,000. And we have that information from the Cessna 550, and who owns it and who flew it and all that stuff. I mean, we have just, and we remember when we were getting bullied, when Team Find Richard Halliday was getting bullied uh, endlessly, endlessly. It's like, okay, whatever, you evil dogs. You evil dogs. Isn't that what they call themselves? Dogs. I want to belong to a dog cult, right? These are, and I like dogs. I like dogs, but these are the worst type of dogs, right? These are humans that want to pretend to be dogs, right? Um, and 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 just give dogs a bad name. That's what they want to do with their sex cult. It's it's anyway. So these terrible individuals. Um, Lost my train of thought. They're just up to no good, and I lost my train of thought, because the level of evil these people have. That bully, oh yeah. and they were bullying us. And um, what? eh, I'm I took it, and I very seldom responded unless I felt like they were giving us some important information, which they did. They did because Deborah Sarah West taught Dallas Hart how to fly, right? He was learning how to fly these planes, these planes that a lot of times the trafficking is it happens with these planes. If it's not the tactical move storage unit, they use the planes because they can fly. We have very good friends in Texas that know all about flying because they have their own plane and they can fly over it to Juarez very easy. Very easy. They can crisscross the border. And, so we know that Deborah Sarah West and that the hearts in the West, they're very connected. Okay? They're very connected. Um, this is all from these terrible phone calls, and there's so much information we gathered from that. But after 3 months, it gets old, and so we figured out how to trace these burner phones, and we traced the burner phones. And where did they lead? It was very, very interesting where they led, and that's undeniable. And we turned that information in, and it's on record. It is on record. So our years of gathering information to break this case so that we can get accountability forever who murdered Richard, but really that we can have his remains and we can have closure, right? So because for the longest time we didn't know what happened to him, but now we know that it is because of a criminal syndicate that's involved in the Walmart mass shooting. Okay. And so this is making a big circle now, coming back to Patrick Crusius and being on the autistic spectrum. Um, you know, I'm not uh, proficient in a lot of things, all right, but I do know education, and I do have been around children, and I have been professionally trained with children and teaching and uh, trained with autistic children and with Down syndrome children and other disabled children. I'm professionally trained, and I'm trained to meet the needs of children, of their personalities, and evaluate them very quickly so that I can teach them how to read, how to paint, how to write, how to, whatever the class is. And so, I've been trained to scope the needs of people, of children. I'm professionally trained like that. And, some people learn um, by reading a book. Some people learn by looking at pictures. Some people learn by actively doing whatever they're trying to learn. Everyone learns differently. This is my problem with this mass schooling, because they treat us like we are machines, that we're not individuals. And they test us like we're machines, not like we're individuals with individual gifts. And I've talked about that so much. We are individuals. We have different gifts. And A test can make a person that is just brilliant in baking or um, music or whatever, look like a total idiot because they don't know history or something like that. It's the whole school system to me, after experiencing it and working in it, being trained to work in it, I didn't like it because we're not machines. We're not just supposed to take these tests and learn to a test. We're individuals. And so, you know, uh, to look at learning disabled children, they also have talents. They also have a future. And so, that was anybody that knows me, dedicated to McGuffey's online tutor, dedicated to educating children. That was what I was trying to do when Richard went missing, is try to help all these parents that the schools closed down because of this, you know, fraud, this fraud, and they didn't know what to do. And so when I found out, and Rob found out, and Team Farm Richard Halliday found out that Richard's case through 3905 Bliss Avenue, through Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, through Thomas Hoffman, through Danae Katzen, through Tanya Katzen, through Herberto Eddie Rocha, through Lydia um, Ortega Rocha, through Yvonne uh, Garcia Ortega. I hope I get these names right. Through these people, through Felix Valenzuela, who is the defense attorney of Patrick Crucius, through Mario Rascon Ortiz, who is a medical examiner, through Bertha Valenzuela, through Deborah Sarah West, right? Through all these people, through Bob Moore, who is El Paso Matters, right? And, there's so many more to add, and I'm going to get into that a little bit too. But when we found out that these cases were intertwined, that this included Leilani Hart and James Hart and Dallas Hart, and that these people are up to no good, and that they manufacture evidence and they steal people's identities and they tamper with files and they tamper with evidence and they tamper with witnesses. They retaliate against witnesses. This is like, uh, you know, it's a nightmare. And so, okay, these people are connected with the Walmart mass shooting. And I need to know, um, yeah, they're part of Richard's case and they're part of the Walmart mass shooting. I better look up the Patrick Crucius case so that maybe I can connect some dots and have a better understanding of Richard's case. This is how we felt, and so we started watching. And because of my training, what I've been doing, I'm a grandmother. I have 9 grandchildren. I look at them and I'm like, how can I help them? How can I bless them? What can I do for them? Um, so I'm always observing. And I think Sammy C could even say that too, because I sent him some books for his son that I thought would be a blessing and helpful, very helpful. But so I started looking at Crucius, and very quickly, you know, there's no chin wiggling, lips wiggling, no contortion of the face during his trials, during his appearances in the videos. The body language, the body language, you know, and I like to watch Mandy. She has a body language YouTube site. She's amazing, right? So I've been watching her. So of course I like body language, right? We like body language that communicates with us. And Patrick Crucius' communication through body language to me was, I suspected that he was on the spectrum. Okay? I was like, wow, the future does not seem to, the thought of the future does not seem to, bother him. Being in trial for mass murder doesn't seem to really bother him. These are signs that he's on the spectrum. And, the lack of him communicating is also, um, autistic children don't really talk that much. And yeah, so that's why we inquired, and we did get confirmation that he is. We received confirmation that he is. That he is on the autistic spectrum. This is huge news, and it should have been revealed. The Walmart mass shooting case is a botched case. Millions of dollars, and it's a botched case. And we're 4 years in, and was it just me, or did other people ask that same question? Is Patrick Crucius autistic? Because something's not right there. And what do I mean? The narrative. The narrative, the secrecy, the transparency, the connection with our son's case, what's going on. And if the people of El Paso knew that Patrick Crucius was on the spectrum, I think they would have more questions, like I do, like Team Find Richard Halliday does. Because the first question that comes to my mind is, who helped him? Who? Um, that's the first question that comes to my mind. Because do not tell me that if Patrick Crucius, and we have confirmation that he is on the autistic spectrum, that he carried that out without any help. Nope, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And the narrative and the secrecy and the lack of transparency, and this narrative is that this was a lone gunman. Nope, I don't buy it. Nope, I don't buy it. And it's not because of just me, it's because of my experiences and my training and my professional training. I don't buy it. And I don't understand. There must be something so diabolical with this group that they had to take down Yvonne Rosales, because I've looked at her case, and I'm looking at Bob Moore, and that who has never had an article about Richard, not once, right, in his publication on a missing soldier, murdered soldier, where the people connected, like Dallas Hart, that just happens to have the birthday on the same day as the Walmart mass shooting, is involved in Richard's case because he's Richard's platoon leader and he's the key suspect. The key suspect. Now, when Bob Moore, there must be child trafficking, child pornography, weapons trafficking, rapes, sexual harassment, doggy cults, marketplaces for illegal drugs. You know, they are milking Fort Bliss and El Paso for everything they got. That's the only suspicion, the only allegation, the only thing that connects all of this together. Because with Patrick Crucia's case, 4 years, this is a slam dunk. But they are protecting whoever helped him. Okay? Because someone had to help him, in my professional opinion. Someone had to help him. And why other professional educators are not saying the same, I don't know. It's kind of like the COVID thing, how the doctors could mislead us like they did. And they know they were misleading us. They absolutely knew they were misleading us. So it's like how could they do that? And so in this case, there should be plenty of educators that would confirm and could even, personally evaluate Patrick Crucius. I'm sure they have already. But they couldn't even do an insanity plea because in my opinion, we have it confirmed because he's autistic. And is that why they couldn't seek the death penalty? I don't know. I'm not in law. But I'm just saying that the only explanation for the lack of transparency, for the botched case, for taking down Yvonne Rosales, bringing in Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks, I mean, he just was attacked today in the news by who? Bob Moore, trying to save his 501c3, who took down Yvonne Rosales. And now, years later, he's like, oh, yeah, oh, wait a minute. They're calling me a political attack machine. I better go after Bill Hicks. And Bill Hicks absolutely has been derelict in his duty. He still doesn't even have a court date for the mass shooting for Patrick Crusius. And the thing is Patrick Crusius just got his whole life in prison by the, you know, in my opinion, in Team Fine Richard Halliday's opinion, why doesn't Bill Hicks save all of the money, all of the grief, all of the pain of this whole case and give it to the Attorney General and let the Attorney General, you know, uh, complete this case, close this case, because Patrick Crusius has already been tried and found guilty and will spend the rest of his life in jail. He could never live so long as what his sentencing was. And so the federal government already has done that. What more does Bill Hicks want to do? The only explanation is he wants to milk the El Pasoans for more money, millions and billions and trillions. And, it's not billions and trillions, but, it's like the military. Oh, and then I'm like, okay, so we know there's weapon smuggling. We know that there's unregistered weapons. We know that there was a weapons person. Oh, what do you call that? A gunsmith involved in this case. And, please God, do not let, because the military was involved with the Patrick Crusius, with the mass shooting. They, is this a Fort Bliss problem? Was the mass shooting a Fort Bliss problem? Was it connected to Fort Bliss? It's connected to Richard Halliday. It's connected to Richard Halliday, and it's connected to those that are directly connected to Fort Bliss. And so let me see if I can make what I'm thinking. This is my allegation, my personal opinion. I think that there was so much crime going on at Fort Bliss. They were milking the system, and that got threatened politically. And some people got together and carried out this atrocious crime. And because they were into other crimes, Richard was reporting some of those other crimes, and that would have exposed the big crime, the big political crime that they wanted to commit or had already committed. And they couldn't let that happen. That's my suspicion. That's why Yvonne Rosales was taken down, because it's political. This is why Bill Hicks came in. But now, how can you cover this up forever? You can't cover this up forever. I mean, just the fact that we received confirmation that Patrick Crusius is autistic, just the fact that we have it confirmed that there were unregistered guns, big gun problem, the guns are all over, flush with weapons. When was this? I have it right here. This whole gun problem. This is when those soldiers from the Bulldog, this is in 2023, when they shot and killed some people. I think it was, uh, let's see, East Side, East El Paso, in a bar in East El Paso, right? 3 civilians were killed and 5 were injured. And the soldiers involved were roommates and part of the same company. Both firearms used in the incident were unregistered. Okay, this was Fort Bliss, right? This was Major General Eisenhower, right? During the unannounced inspection, 79 different instances of contraband and illegal weapons were discovered. 79, right? 41 illegal weapons. Okay. That is 7 found in privately owned vehicles, right? Of those illegal weapons. These are illegal weapons that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about legal weapons. So, 23 incidences of live ammunition. 17 incidents of live ammunition in the barracks. Yeah. Equipment, military equipment that was not supposed to be there. Yeah, it just. So, what am I saying? This is about uh, child pornography, child sex trafficking. This is about using and abusing our soldiers for a business plan for narcotics trafficking, and also the weapons smuggling and illegal weapons. It's just all over the place. That's in 2023. That's this year. And we knew it and announced it for years already. And the generals chose to do nothing. Nothing. He expected to do. Nothing too. So no, we're writing letters. We're doing this legally. We're doing this peacefully. Um, and today was yesterday was a wowzer. Yesterday was an absolute wowzer, an absolute blessing. An absolute blessing. And the more people that come forward, um, the better chance that these children have that are being trafficked, and lives of so many others, and this connection. Can you imagine if these people actually did help Patrick Crusius organize this, plan this? I mean, this is so evil. For politics, because this is another thing I have a hard time um, with, because he is now confirmed to be on the autistic spectrum. Um, how did he write all of that, those allegations, his manifesto and everything? And I know that they can absolutely do it, but you know, um, I just have a lot of questions about all that. And I think the El Pasoans need to have a lot of questions about that. And Bill Hicks absolutely is under fire for how he's handled this. And, you know, why they are still milking the system when the federal case is already done. I don't get that either. Unless they are protecting those individuals or they are funding the cost of Richard's case under the guise of the Patrick Crucius case. And that's why we have open records requests. We have open records requests for the funding of Richard and of Patrick Crucius case. And now we know it's even more intertwined. And we're talking about children's lives, 85,000 unaccounted for children. Okay? Is there child sex trafficking? 100%. We know it is. It's all over the place. Do we know that Richard was trying to help children? 100%. Was he trying to help a young mother? 100%. Do we know that he has a totally clean record? 100%. Because they would have it plastered everywhere if he had any kind of record right now. And I'm going to tell you, because the people covering this up, we have confirmation that there are FBI informants involved in trying to control the narrative of Richard's case. Absolutely political pundits trying to control the narrative of Richard's case. Richard was never on the federal criminal database. We have the dereliction of the command of evil, evil, evil crimes against humanity, Sean Bernabe, meetings with him, with his PP McGee SJA, who knew that Richard's setup case had been dismissed, guaranteed dismissal, and did not tell us. Think of families that have to go through this, that have to work, right? That are working and have children, and oh my goodness, how do they do it? How do they do it? Not everyone is, a Gigi, a grandma, a papa, right? As old as we are. They're younger, they have little smaller children, they have families, they're still working, and these infiltrators that are supposed to be helping are just controlling the narrative. Trying to control the narrative. And we're plowing forward. We're plowing forward as far as we can go so that we can get Richard's remains. And so we really need your prayers on this. And we're very grateful for yesterday. Just amazing that Leilani Hart and James Hart definitely totally involved in this. And they're divided by Bob Moore. So Felix Valenzuela Bill Hicks, who, oh my gosh. Um, yeah. I want to focus on the good things. And the good things are that we have evidence upon evidence upon evidence. And it's pointing to a group of people that just have used the American taxpayer and the El Paso community um, for their criminal gravy train. And Richard didn't like it. He says, really bad. He reported it. And the very people, because he was CID intern, right? CID wannabe, he knew these people. We have proof of that. Dirty Marlon Soto, let's see if he would admit to it, but he absolutely knows it. Um, and Tavita Nusa, let's not forget, dirty, very, very dirty, and very involved in our son's case. And why, after 3 years, would they be, still trying to control the narrative, right? Um, and their narrative is Richard just walked away, and you're like, really, really, wow, no, no. And we know that with Denisha, we know that with Lavina, we know that with Asia, we know that with Austin Hawk, we know that with Enrique Roman Martinez, we know that with um, Elder Fernandez, we know that with Caleb Smither. We know that I can go on and on and on, naming all the names of those soldiers that have lost their lives, and the narrative was twisted and turned, and you know, and the truth has not been revealed. Um, Praise God for Vanessa Guillen, and even with her case, I have to say, we don't know everything. So, and I don't expect to know everything, but I want my son's remains. I do. Because I know enough that I know that he was murdered. And that there's a lot of very, very evil people that are trying to control the narrative. And that we have those that are supposed to be on the up and up, and defending our country and our Constitution and helping the people and all those good words that they have, and they're just using us for their gravy train. And yeah, and so we're gonna plow forward and get answers, and we have been, until we get Richard's remains. And I've been told in little nasty messages that I would never get Richard's remains. That he was a good meal for the coyotes. A good meal for the coyotes. And who said that? Thomas Kane. Thomas Kane from, yeah, DES, the chief of security of Fort Bliss. Yeah. So, think about that. Wow. They have been doing some really evil stuff to get that low. to get that callous, to get that evil. They have been doing some really terrible stuff, y'all. So, thanks for your prayers, and let me answer any questions. Good evening, Mitzi. Thank you, Kathleen. Hello, my friends. They need to get a broom. Yep. Um, Fort Bliss need to get a broom and sweep away every building on post. They can really, there is no mission for Fort Bliss. They need to close it down. And wow, that those are fighting words. But you know, we were there in Heidelberg, Germany, when it closed down. Okay, and Heidelberg was premium spot. Okay, in Germany. Um, but Americans didn't have a mission there anymore, and it got closed down. And we were, you know, uh, right there to see it to the end and leave. And you would think that what would take its place or whatever, and could Heidelberg function without all the monies coming in from the military? Absolutely, it did. Absolutely. El Paso is amazing. It doesn't need Fort Bliss to look after Castner Range. you know, it doesn't need Fort Bliss to do that. Get 10 people, right? Get 10 people. Say, lower your property taxes and your um, whatever taxes that are there, and get the other businesses going. You don't need the no. And Fort Bliss is not guarding the border. They're not. What are they doing? They're not doing anything there except for milking and costing and creating so much crime and creating so much crime and milking the El Pasoans to pay for their criminal activities. That's my, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. And so, you know, yeah, that's why they're trying to control the narrative, um, because they like that gravy train. But they're educated. They can go do something else. Go do something else more productive instead of being, criminal syndicate. But, maybe they need to be held accountable. I don't know. Um, I would hope so. I would hope so. But yeah, I'll leave that to Ken Paxton. I'll leave that to the other attorney generals who, and this is the thing. Um, Bill Hicks's job is to identify crime, identify criminals, document it, and prosecute it. Well, what's he waiting on? He's not doing it. So he was rightfully called out today for that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you for your prayers. And I will be back tomorrow. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything that's going on with this Leilani prostitution thing, with Dallas being not just by Team Farm Richard Halliday, but now another witness saying Dallas is involved in this, and we have other witnesses that say Dallas is involved in this, and um, this whole thing with the criminal complaint, getting answers for that. That Leilani played more of a part on the crimes um, that James committed. Uh, that's the word out there on that one. Um, that we're trying to make sure and uh, validate, I guess, validate. And just this, I mean, there's just so much information, and you can tell by the lack of stories out there of the fear. There's so much fear because we've let these criminals grow for too long. And, you know, um, so it's going to take a lot of us together to pray and to be brave and to plow forward. So the chains have gotten heavier and heavier. It's kind of like this is Christmas time. It's like Christmas Carol, where the chains got heavier and heavier and heavier with the more time that goes on and the more things that have happened. Um, yeah. So, but all things are possible with God, and we're going to plow forward. So, I, I just think about the children, and I think about this mortuary affairs, and it just gives me the creeps, and I just have to, I have to plow forward. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you, and I'll be back tomorrow.